Good evening and welcome to the Township Committee Special Meeting of March 4th, 2026. Ms. Brake, please call the roll.
Committeeman Britting.
Here.
Committeewoman Hand. Committeewoman Gomez.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lapani.
Present.
Mayor Payne.
Here.
Administrator Ferrera.
Here.
Attorney Willard.
Here.
CFO Bouchel.
Here.
Please be advised that in accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, notice of this meeting was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex and notifying the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex at 5 p.m. on March 4th, 2026. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to briefly explain why we called this special meeting. Our primary responsibility as a governing body is to ensure the contiguous and effective operation of our township. To do that, we must fulfill our financial obligations, ranging from payroll for our employees to paying the vendors who keep our infrastructure running. At our last meeting, the CFO provided an emergency temporary appropriation that he deems necessary to run our township. 2 votes were against it. This is not an authorization for new spending, nor is it a request for a loan or a tax increase. This vote is to bridge from the temporary budget appropriations to the final budget adoption, which is yet to be determined. Tonight, we vote again, and my hope is that we can move forward with a unified voice to ensure that our township stays on track, our employees are paid, our essential services remain uninterrupted, and our bills stay paid until the full budget is finalized. This is about responsible fiscal management, plain and simple. I would like to give a special thanks to our CFO, Christian. Thank you for his patience, clarity, and the hours he has spent on educating our dais. We only have one item on the agenda tonight. May I have a motion and a second to authorize the resolution authorizing emergency temporary appropriations prior to adoption of the 2026 budget?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Comments from the dais?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. As you can see, Committeewoman Han could not be with us tonight, and she regrets that. She is traveling in a different time zone for work. She did request if she could join us via Zoom, and although you may have seen presentations in the past where people have been able to be on here via Zoom, we were told that was not an option for tonight. I did speak with our IT director, who's going to be following up with our administrator to see if that's something we can get set up in the future for situations like this so we can have our members be able to join in via Zoom. Last week, Committeewoman Hand and I voted against the adoption of the emergency temporary budget appropriations, which meant that it did not pass. This particular statute requires 2/3 of the votes. And in our case of a 5-person committee, that means it requires 4 yes votes in order to pass. It requires additional votes and not just the majority because of the nature of what we are voting on and its relation to our budget and our expenses. This is something that we should all be taking the time to look closely at and not simply rubber stamping without having all the information needed to make an informed vote. We also believe that our taxpayers should have more opportunity to fully understand and ask questions about these temporary emergency appropriations. Right now, our township committee agendas and the documentation that supports it is only available a few hours before our township committee meetings. And this is just simply not enough time to review, especially something as important and as detailed as this last resolution. In the past, I have communicated with our administrative clerk about the possibility of seeing if we can get information out to people sooner, and I'm hoping that's something we can work towards together. I'm thankful to have our CFO here tonight. Thank you, Christian, and he's here to answer any questions, and I think that's really important. I hope that in future meetings when we're having resolutions related to the budget that you can be here. I did also ask Christian if it was possible to provide any additional documentation to the resolution in terms of why these line items are needed, how the money is being spent, just to give people the peace of mind of what is actually necessary for these appropriations. Although neither of the finance liaisons were a part of the original creation of the resolution, we were able to meet with our administrator and CFO on Monday. We made amendments reducing the appropriations by almost $250,000. And even today, we were still making further amendments to make sure that we had enough funds to pay for the snow plowing payments that would be due soon. I want to thank our CFO, our administrator, and my fellow finance liaison for working with me to get this done. Our residents and taxpayers in Hillsborough have the right to full accounting and to make sure and discussion on how their taxpayer dollars are being spent. Although we do not anticipate having our budget being able to be presented to adopt until April, we know that our expenses have increased in several line items, and we know that 86% of our tax base is residential. The hard decisions need to happen now to ensure that we are making prudent spending choices, and that will be my goal throughout this budget process. Thank you.
Any other comments from the dais?
I just do have a question too. As the Ms. Committeewoman Gomez, as the lead liaison for finance, you mentioned about $250,000. About 200,000 of that is for the police operating expenses. How come that was rejected in this?
That current line item under the temporary budget had 400,000 in it. When I asked our CFO what was left in that balance, he said there was 290,000 in it. He had put that there as a buffer, but it's not needed for anything right now.
Did you talk to the chief about that before making that decision?
No, this was in a meeting with our CFO, administrator, and Deputy Mayor Lapani.
Got it.
Do you understand what the operating expenses are for the chief?
No.
Okay. Any other comments from the dais?
Thank you, Mayor. And I understand that obviously we always look prudently at what the line items are here. Again, and I think I said this at the last meeting, you know, these are not, and I think the mayor just said, these aren't additional taxes. This isn't discretionary spending. This is basically keeping our line items funded in an appropriate way that we don't have to come back and do this every other week or every 3 weeks. So the CFO added monies to the line items that would allow us to get through the budgeting process, which is meeting with our managers and then obviously the budget committee to come up with the final budget. So though we have taken some of these line items out today, I am more than confident probably we may have to be back and revisit this in a week to 2 weeks to reappropriate some of the things that have come out. And they're very minute in some ways that our lead liaison asked us to remove, which we said okay, because the CFO said we don't need it for this week, but he felt it should be added for ease of operation for the township. One, you know, was $3,500 or $3,000 for postage. It's a very small amount. It's postage, and I don't know why, Ms. Gomez, you felt that need to be removed. Though it did say temporary budget was $3,500, but we didn't have that much left in it. The other one was for purchasing paper, which was $3,000, which again was, I guess, not a lot of money in the scope of a $5 million appropriations. And the other one was for dog tag regulation of $20,000. So there is $26,000 that we're omitting from the last budgetary request from our CFO, who felt it was requested. So I'd like you just, since you've made your nice presentation, why you felt those really had to be removed from this vote.
Yes, and as I mentioned, as we move forward with these temporary emergency appropriations, we want to pay for things that are due right now that we know or are due in the immediate future. And I understand we are going to have to create more temporary emergency appropriations because we already know we're going to run out of our salary and wage line items before the budget is adopted. And as other items come up, we may need to pay bills and move money around in that regard. When it comes to something like central purchasing and the paper we're buying, that line item had $3,000 in it, and that was supposed to take us until April. That is what the temporary budget does. It's 35% of our budget. It's meant to take us through April. We are at the beginning of March. If we are overspending in a certain line item, let's have a discussion about it. Maybe perhaps we can ask our departments to be more mindful of what they're printing. We need to be prudent with how we're spending our money. We know our budget is going to be larger than it was last year. We know many items have gone up, including our insurance, and we need to start seeing where we're going to find that extra money so that we're not passing that on to our taxpayers.
I just want to clarify something. I already spoke today with the CFO as well. He has not yet to begin on the 26 budget because he was taking an extra week to do this and all the meetings that you had requested of him. So I just want to be clear to the public, we have not yet started on our 26 budget. We do not foresee an increase to date. And so that is not knowledge. That is not fact. And I just want to point that out.
But we know certain line items have increased. We know our insurance has increased.
It has increased, but it doesn't mean that our overall budget will, right? We are very spendthrift here. I've already saved $3,000 on a calendar mailing so far to date. I've also worked with the administrator to put in motion sensors to reduce our utility bills. So those are things that are in place that'll chip away at the existing budget also and not have our expenses as high as they are. So again, we have not begun working on the 2026 budget. It is in process after we get through this temporary appropriation.
Then we are in agreement that we want to be seeing where we can chip away and save money as we go along.
We also want to be factual, though, yes. Okay. Any other comments from the dais? Christian, anything you want to add? Nope. Okay. Anything else? Roll call.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Comments from the floor.
Motion to open.
Thank you.
Second.
Come. Come.
Good evening. My name is Lewin Weil. I live at 8 Moore Road. I'm a longtime resident of Hillsborough. I'm glad to hear that we may not have another tax increase. The past year has been pretty substantial. And I'm here really to talk about transparency and documentation and letting the taxpayers, us residents, know. So I understand that oftentimes agenda items with supporting documentation is only available to the public a few hours before the actual meeting. In my view, that's inadequate and does not give taxpayers, us residents, a chance to review and ask thoughtful questions. To me, it's a lack of transparency. And it keeps us taxpayers, residents, uninformed about whether the Township Committee is making thoughtful and wise decisions or not, because we don't have enough information early enough to ask thoughtful questions. So I would ask the committee to start issuing and releasing documentation earlier. That's it. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Clerk Brake, do you want to speak to that?
I can just say that as of probably just a couple of years ago, the first time you would have any of the documentation would be walking into the meeting, a printed copy on the back table. So we've come a long way since then.
Good.
And, you know, we're doing our best to get you the information we can as soon as we can, but oftentimes edits are being made, changes are being made, and we can't put anything out to the public until it's finalized. We can't put out a draft resolution. So, but we are, you know, we've come a long way, and we continue to do our best to improve.
So there is, I think, a difference, and I hear you about the draft resolution, although I've seen draft resolutions issued too, and it says draft and tentative, but in terms of the documentation that supports it, that's something that takes time to prepare, and I would think that it should be the objective of the committee to release that earlier rather than at the last moment. I know it may not be finalized till then, but that's helpful for residents and for taxpayers. Thank you.
I also just want to be clear too with you, sir, that one of the requests that I have made is that all of this documentation that we see is also listed separately on appropriate township pages. So for instance, if you went to the Department of Finance, you would be able to find all of this kind of documentation delineated for you as well. So it is there, and that you can always come back with questions and things like that. Us approving a temporary budget, again, is not the cause of raising your taxes. And the substantial tax raise that you spoke of was actually pertaining to the BOE, the over $20 million that they did last year. That was not the township, just to be clear. I know it hit us all, but I'm just clarifying. Ma'am, you had a question?
Yeah, hi, my name is Lisa Dickholz. I live at 19 DeReamer Road in, obviously, Hillsborough. First, I want to thank Committeewoman Gomez for being, so thoughtful and looking at how Hillsborough is spending their money. I moved in here in 2000. My taxes are almost double what they were back then. I understand that vast majority of that is from Board of Ed, but I also know that the budget for the township has also gone up in other ways. I'm a little offended, Committeeman Lapani, that you're so flippant about, well, this is a really small amount and that's a really small amount. Every dollar is important and it adds up. So, I just wanted to raise that, and I also was wondering, Committeeman Brent, why you felt the need to bring up the police. I know you were talking about how Committeewoman Hand and Gomez were trying to be political, but I feel like by you bringing up the police, that that was something that was a choice as well.
Yeah, because they keep us safe, and we should not be defunding the police in Hillsborough.
We're not defunding the police.
It's actually what this is doing. This is taking away his ability for his operating expenses.
That's not what
That's the chief.
That's not what the CFO said. Well, then maybe the chief and the CFO need to
They
speak.
talk, believe me. That's why I asked
Okay,
them.
well, that's not what the...
Sure.
the-
And I also think, too, that when people come up and ask questions, I think as regular residents, totally. But if you're an elected member of a party, I think you should also be stating that as well, too. And I know, I believe you're
I've been
District 2 for the
I've
Democratic
been a-
organization, so I would like to just, and so the gentleman prior was District 15. So I want to make sure that we're being very representative to the public who are watching, that you are also elected officials
I've
within
been
your own
living
party.
here since
So let's be
2000
clear.
I've been living here since 2000, and I've only been involved for a few months.
Okay.
So I have a right.
Sure,
to ask a
absolutely you do.
question.
Absolutely, and I have a right to
Okay.
let people know the reality of it, too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Come on. Sorry, you can cue. Oh, okay, thank you.
Jody Green, 21 Bloomingdale Drive, obviously in Hillsborough. I would just like to thank both Jill and Samantha for demanding on the public's behalf that greater transparency become the norm for approval of these temporary emergency funds. While ultimately these appropriations may be found to be necessary, it would be impossible to know with the limited information provided at the last meeting with just 2 hours to review and digest their potential impact.
Thank you. Ma'am? Sorry.
My name is Philomena Solili, and I've been a resident here for 44 years. I think the word transparency needs to be embellished just a little bit. In the past several years, the township has offered open meetings, put out transparency information so that the residents would have access to that. You look here tonight, how many people take advantage of the opportunity of the transparency that you people are putting out? So I take a little bit of exception where it becomes down to all your responsibility because you're doing the best that you can, but we're not doing our ability to possibly learn exactly what's happening. So at the last minute to do something like this, and I was on the Board of Adjustment for 7 years, I've been active in the township, I know most of you, and I think it's important to say that. But you have to be fair and you have to look at what's happening. We're doing the best that they can, the Township Committee and everybody who works here. The most important thing is the health, safety, and welfare of this township. So those people who are not getting paid, whether it's a corporation who has people, whether it's our police who protect us, it's the snowplow people who are out 24 hours a day. Do something about it in the future. You can't be more transparent. Encourage more people to come out. You're not coming out and you're not listening, you're complaining. And I take exception to that. I really do. To do this on a last-minute basis where you're encompassing all of the people, and our premise is the safety, healthy, and welfare of our people. So if you feel that by doing this, that's the best way to do it. And our police, I have had them at my house I don't know how many times, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So they're there when you need them. So to encumber all of this, I take exception to this. I think it's wrong. And we have a responsibility as citizens to do our part. John, last year, we had the master plan. We had a meeting here. You know how many people came to that?
Yep.
There weren't 15 or 20 people at the master plan, but they're complaining. We don't know what's going on with the master plan. So I would like you to think about a solution that would help us understand better why we need to have a responsibility to learn about what's going on in the township. Okay?
Thank you. So as I mentioned, yeah, please come up. I'm sorry, you keep trying. Come on. I just have one quick talking point to that. So as I mentioned when I got sworn in, as mayor, I will be doing budget transparency, different things. I'm going to be doing surveys. I'm going to be doing things that'll present that information from the budget when poor Christian actually gets a chance to work on it. That will be forward-facing. It'll be all out there. Again, one of the things I've asked for is that the documentation that we have tonight, other documentation that we get along the way, it goes up on their respective departmental website. I've also elicited a new way of showing data on a weekly, monthly basis, depending on the department and what databases they use. And I've worked with Clerk Break to make sure that that is comprehensive and easy to digest information. It'll show constant, for instance, the building department had X amount of inspections, X amount of new permits selected, things like that. This all adds to the transparency. So you can see that when we are appropriating money for the building department, in this instance, why they need the money, like that they're actively working. And this is, again, like just one small example of the transparency that I am trying to change. We are 2 months in, almost 3 months in. This was a kind of an unforeseen hiccup. Ma'am, please. You kept trying. I'm sorry. You were very patient.
Sure, it's all good. So I say my name and where I live?
Yes, please.
That's how it's going?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Emily Benedon. I'm 169 Beekman. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay.
There you go.
It's got to go into the recording also.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Emily Benedon at 169 Beekman Lane. I've been resident here for a few years. I have a few questions. Why was a Zoom or Teams meeting not able to happen?
We don't have a precedent for it, and we felt that it would be better off if we had some kind of like rigor around that and ruling. We don't have any of that today. It's not been something that we've needed to do since the pandemic because of an emergency situation. This was a special meeting, not an emergency situation.
Can I
It's
add
been done
something to that?
before, right?
I'm sorry.
I'd also like to add, we don't actually have the technology in this room to have a two-way Zoom. It's not set up to do that.
Okay. Yeah. It's disappointing because I haven't
So
been tonight.
to be fair, during a pandemic,
me, I was saying
well, I was going to answer one of your questions why we don't have it.
I know,
We
but
never
you
closed.
interrupt a lot,
We
sorry, it's
never
just-
closed the building during the pandemic. We were open, so we had the meetings the entire time. So we didn't have to have that technology in the building at the time. So that's why.
Okay, no, that makes sense. It just seems odd, given this day and age and the spend on IT and other things, that a Zoom meeting that people can have actually right here, you can't have that type of two-way interaction to allow somebody who has other commitments as everyone else does on the committee.
Absolutely. And for the presentation that the committee woman mentioned, that was a canned presentation. It was a one-way presentation. It wasn't a Q&A. So the person was live, but they were just presenting on their own camera and mic that way. It wasn't a back and forth, just to be clear on that too.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
It comes across as
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
dysfunctional and odd that it can't happen, especially since
We'll look
2
at a
hours
cost
of
after the budget's made.
Yeah. My second question is, in terms of the minutes, and I've done minutes so many times, I still do them for lots of different reasons. Is there a way to use different technologies that are free, such as AI, to quicken the process? Because I think one of the things that I would think in the master plan, and I believe Mr. Bushell, that being innovative is very important, but using AI or generative AI to support the process could be a way to get the minutes out, the day before at least, or the Friday before. So I know everyone's very busy, but it's odd to see some innovation not coming in when possibly it could come in.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. Anything else?
And are you going to address what I said, or
I mean, I don't have a comment for it. I don't have a.
do you guys look at innovation and Gen AI and?
We absolutely do. When you say get the minutes out earlier, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm not sure if anybody's used Gen AI, but there's the possibility and the ease of actually transcribing, basically word to voice to word, and
Yeah, no, I understand that, but when you say get it out earlier, I mean, the meeting videos are available instantly after, so if you wanted to see what was done in the meeting, you could review a meeting instantly. The minutes are a summary of that, so it does take time. We wouldn't rely on AI. We wouldn't capture every word that's said. It's a summary, so and they're put out for approval, pretty quickly after the meetings happen. So, and then they go on the agenda for approval at the next available meeting. So that's when they will be available, when that meeting documentation is released to the public, typically the day of the meeting they're being voted on.
because there's transcription services that are free and things like that.
Sure.
So it doesn't sound like there's any interest in that.
Well, I wouldn't rely on AI to transcribe our minutes at this point. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. We really need to review them and make sure they're accurate. So, and honestly, we have software that manages our meeting documentation that makes our minutes fairly quick. It pulls them right together. So we're just adding public comment, summarizing. It's not a labor-intensive process as it is. We already use some pretty high-tech, services. So, yeah, thank you.
I did want to, I have one more question, but I do thank you for what you said.
What did I say?
About the transparency and just the fact that people do need to get engaged instead of complaining. And so people feeling welcome is really important. And I personally say to people when they complain, just ask somebody, reach out. And something that I personally try to do is every year before Thanksgiving, I try to reach out to you all, the BOE, administrator, the police, to say thank you, because it's not easy what you're doing. It is complex. The budgets aren't as big as others, but it is a genuine thank you.
Thank you.
The next question I have is, why does the budget process take so long for us to start doing it when we're getting into the middle of the year? So I'm sure there's a big reason, but a lot of people just don't understand that.
So I had put out a summary on one of my comments, but I'll leave it to the CFO if you want.
Sorry. The budget process usually starts at the beginning of the year when we do the temporary budget. It allows us to actually put money into the account to actually keep the operations moving until budget adoption. Last year, I came on board in May, so it was halfway through the year. We had to clean up 2025. We had to close out 2025. We basically tried to cram, or the finance department tried to cram 12 months of work into like 8 months. So it took us a while to close out. We worked with our auditor on a daily basis. So we closed out a little bit later than we thought, but our AFS is done. So once that process gets behind us, that's when we can actually turn and pivot and move towards 2026. That's where we are currently right now within the past 2 weeks. So normally, hopefully, we would start in February as we're finishing with 2025 or the previous year. This year, it was just a lot of work that we were doing, that's all.
So the anticipation is that in the coming year, it will all start earlier.
We'll all start earlier, but also the state actually pushed back the deadlines by about a month for budget introduction, the AFS, the financials. So even the state realizes that at the beginning of the year, it's a lot to do to close out a year, to start the new year. So with them actually extending that time period an extra month, that actually helps the finance department actually do it properly. That's where we are.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thank you for those who didn't interrupt me while I was speaking. Sometimes it seems that for the people that come up, that they're interrupted, and it seems like sometimes you all interrupt each other, and it's hard to hear what's going on from the outside. So appreciate that, and do appreciate the work that everyone does here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the floor?
John Ciccarelli, 14 Southland Drive in Hillsborough. I I've changed what I wanted to write because some of the things have been addressed, but from what I understand, the budget process doesn't start until you get the financial statements for 2025 done, because we run on a cash basis, so we can't really do that work until that statement is done. So we're really constricted on time when it comes to budgeting. Sorry, it's not a question, I'm just looking for assurance. Let's get back to why we're here, right? It's approving the resolution for the temporary budget. And before the last meeting, on January 31st, Committeewoman Hand and Gomez attended the 2026 newly elected orientation, which is provided by the New Jersey League of Municipalities. I attended the same session several years ago, and it's about important municipal governance concepts, processes, and procedures. And there's a section on newly elected primer on budgeting, which goes over the entire process for the temporary budget, and including the temporary emergency resolutions, which are unfortunately called emergencies, because all it is a continuing resolution of the temporary budget. It's not an emergency, they coined it that, and municipalities are stuck with that name. So, having taken those classes, the committee women must have understood what the process was, that they needed a 2/3 vote, and that two no votes would can it and put us in the situation we're in now. So they either willfully, I'm assuming they understood, and they willfully and intentionally politicized the no vote. And I think it's under the guise of doing it on behalf of the taxpayers, because now this meeting tonight is costing taxpayer money. It's costing my taxpayer money for all of us to be here and run this. 3 minutes? This part of the session is not under the 3-minute constraint, from what I remember.
But I wish we would do that in every meeting, by the way.
Yeah, right. Again, I think it was a bit of a charade. The township is an open book. I know there's discussion about transparency and whatnot. The Township Committee is an award-winning Township Committee for transparency, for what we've done for outreach and to make documents available to residents. There's information available to the full Township Committee to resolve these issues before the public session. Provide a unified front for the resolutions for the benefit of all residents, instead of the divisive actions and innuendos of mismanagement that have attempted to undermine the Township Committee and the administration and the staff who does all the work. Mismanagement, I think this no vote is an example of misinformed and gross mismanagement of municipal leadership. And we're now scrambling. It alludes that nobody else, saying that the comments and providing comments, the comments we've heard allude that nobody else up on there is fiscally responsible or cares about where the dollars go. And that's just simply not true, right? So I think the no vote, there's 564 municipalities in New Jersey. 558 of them go through the same routine process. This is the way the state government runs. It's not a corporation, unfortunately. I wish it was. It's cost more money now to hold this special meeting with the apparent goal to undermine the historic good work that the township has done. I urge the committee to vote yes on this resolution and get on with the good work that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've been told it's one
Just
comment.
an easy question, which is this a Q&A session, or is this like somebody could just state things?
This is open comment
So open comment.
on this resolution.
Awesome. Thank
Yep.
you so much.
Yeah, of course. Any other comments from the floor? I know. You're being timed.
Roy Fryman, Hillsborough, New Jersey. Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, I think we all are looking for similar and common outcomes. I think we all are working towards, we live in the same town. We want a very nice, safe community to live in. We want our children's and families to feel welcome. We want it to be affordable. We want everyone, we want our neighbors, and when we enter these rooms, we enter as neighbors, and when we leave as neighbors. So we have all that in common. But we also have different opinions, and I think that's part of the process. And I think disagreement can be healthy and can be a part of the process as well. The disappointment, though, is in particular, you're going to have disagreements up here, and you're going to have where you're not going to agree on the votes. The role of mayor is an appointment. It's an appointment by the Township Committee. And for the most part, it is the chair of this meeting overall.
Yep.
And it's a ceremonial representation for the Township Committee and a spokesperson on general matters for the township. But it doesn't include executive powers.
Correct.
It doesn't include special powers.
Nope.
And taking to township resources to produce a video about the process seems reasonable. It seems appropriate, educating.
Yes.
But condemning votes is outside the scope and inappropriate and wrong to condemn because that's opinion. And you're allowed to have that opinion. And that's a disagreement. But that is outside the scope and utilizing township resources that's inappropriate. And that's where it's outside in abusing the role of what a mayor can do. It can be incredibly helpful, and I look forward to utilizing the role to educating and engaging more people about the budget process, because that can be very, very helpful to get more people to show up, to hear about it, to learn about it. But to not use the role in township resources to pit one another against each other, that won't be helpful. Again, we're going to leave here tonight as we came in as neighbors. But it's okay to absolutely have different votes because we'll have different opinions. So thank you.
You're welcome. And you didn't get buzzed. No, Phil, one. I already got yelled at once. Yes, one comment. Sorry, you have to come to another meeting. Any other comments from the floor? Thank you. Roll call, please. Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry.
Hi, my name is Harshit Agarwal, 17 Campo Road, Hillsborough. I actually just got married recently right here in town, and I'm starting to think about, building my family and where we're going to be living. I've been here in Hillsborough. I went to the high school. I went from Otten Road all the way up to high school here. I've been here since COVID and even before that, after college. Not just for myself, but for my parents who live here, who've been here for more than 20 years. And families that I am very close to. I just want to be very clear. Will this resolution lead to increased taxes?
Nope.
Okay, so where's the money coming from for?
So this is I'll let the CFO answer.
All this is an increase to the temporary budget. That is it. At the beginning of the year, the state allows us to basically put a certain percentage based off of the appropriations from last year into the budget to keep the operation moving forward. That percentage up until last year was 26.25%. They've recently increased that to 35%. So we're able to take last year's appropriation, exclusive from debt service, capital improvements, and public assistance. That number, we took 35%, we put it into the accounts, mainly salary and wages. That's it. There are other account line items that we have bills that we need to pay that we didn't fund in the temporary budget. All this does is increase the temporary budget. Temporary budget was 13 million. This resolution adds 5 million, bringing it to 18 million. Our budget last year was 41 million. We're nowhere near the 41 million. All this does is bridge the gap from the temporary budget numbers to budget adoption. That's it.
And all this will be appropriated in the budget.
Okay, and there's no, this specific amount that's being allocated won't lead to future, it's not increasing the deficit or the
No.
debt that we
No.
have, and it's not going
No.
to lead to future?
It's 18 million right now of the 41 million that Christian just described.
Okay, and that's already within the budget, you're saying? So it's,
The full
Like-
budget last year was 41 million.
okay,
Percentages are dictated by the state of, and that's what we're working within right now. We're trying to.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Come on.
Robbie Lefkowitz, 21 Bloomingdale Drive. I just wanted to say, Committee Person Britting, throwing out the term defunding the police feels like a divisive and unnecessary dog whistle in this political climate.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I think dog whistle is also a political term that you're throwing back at me. The reality is the chief should have should determine what he needs, and Committeewoman just stated that she didn't even talk to him before taking this out of the budget. That is irresponsible. So
I
that's
spoke
defunding
with
the police.
Our CFO speaks to our department heads to get the information of what is needed. I trusted the CFO when we spoke about this.
So I think the bigger issue is that you don't understand what an operating expense is, but yet it was removed. Did you have another comment, sir?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name is Cress Dominic, C-R-E-S-S, and Dominic is D-O-M-I-N-I-C, and I'm at 46 Murphy Drive. I just had two comments. One is regarding the 35% you were mentioning. If you take 18.3 million, which what you're getting right now, that's about 43%. Is that okay, or is that?
It's not. If you take last year's budget and you minus out all of the debt service, capital improvements, it comes down to about 37 million. The 35% was of the 37 million.
Yeah, but
Which
what is
equal-
35% of 37 million? Is that the 18 million?
35% of 37,155,909.84 was 13,004,568.44. I rounded it down to 13 million to keep it even for the temporary budget.
Yeah, but now it's 18 million, isn't it?
Correct.
Is 18 million 35% of the 37 million?
No, the 35% is only for the temporary appropriation.
Okay.
If we need to do 4, 5 more of these temporary emergency appropriations to do so to get to budget adoption, we can keep adding to
Right.
it.
Yeah, you don't need to answer me, but, you know, it's 3 months into the year, maybe 2 months and a bit into the year, and I'd be surprised if we need to appropriate 40% of the budget already, you know, with 2 months gone in the year. It doesn't add up. I don't know, maybe you'll explain it to us later. You don't need to answer this.
No, I'll be
It
happy
looks-
to. If I had my way, I would actually do the temporary budget, and then the following meeting, I would actually fund the accounts all the way through June. Because most likely, most municipalities usually adopt around May or June. So instead of doing this, what we're doing each and every week now,
Yeah.
I'd rather just put the temporary budget in,
Yes.
fund the accounts till June, because that, if we fund the accounts till June, let's say halfway through the
Yeah,
year,
that
40
would be-
million, it would be 20 million, it would do it, and it wouldn't impede operations of the town.
Excellent. That would be a good idea, because I thought on Jan 6th, when we got the 13 million, we should have put in all the statutory payments that we know were coming within the next 2 or 3 months, particularly.
Well, one
you
of the
know,
reasons
those
why we're here
that-
today is because of the pension payments, which are due April 1.
I know, but we knew that on Jan 6th as well, so
Right,
we
but
could have.
that number is 4.3 million. 4.3 million out of the 13 million, it would have left only
No,
the
but-
8 and change, which would have been hard for the departments to actually
No, you're
operate.
not getting what I said. You could have appropriated 18 million on Jan 6th, isn't it?
I couldn't have.
No.
I had to stick to the 35%.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. The second point I wanted to make was, in terms of taxes, again, you don't need to answer, but because you're doing the budgets this year, I went out and looked at my taxes, the taxes I paid, and I know you mentioned this, that you also got hit. It was an increase of 14% in dollar terms. versus what I paid the previous year.
Correct.
Of course, it's a combination of two things, the assessment, which went up, as well as the tax rate that went up marginally last year. Now, this year, based on what I'm seeing, it might go up by another double-digit number.
Absolutely.
That's going to be a problem for a lot of people. It's a
Correct.
problem for me.
Yeah, problem for
my
yep.
increase in valuation does not put money in my pocket. But yet I'm going to be paying more and more taxes every year. So I just want you guys to keep this in mind when you make the budgets this year, so that we make
keep
it
that in
easier.
mind every year, actually.
We make it easier
Yeah.
for people.
Definitely bring that voice, honestly, truly, to the Board of Ed also.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
the
Yes,
biggest
Yes,
chunk.
of course, I agree.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
64% of that, and I also wonder sometimes whether we have, as a committee, any influence on the Board of Ed.
We don't.
To make sure
It's
that they
separate
are.
for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I'm not going to make it. I know, sorry. Okay, roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. I will now open the meeting to comments from the floor. Please keep in mind this is for comments on matters not on the agenda. Please, Ms. Brake, read the statement regarding public comment.
The Township Committee now opens the floor for public comment. To ensure a productive and civil environment for all, please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and spell your name for the record. The Township of Hillsborough maintains a strict standard of decorum. Please ensure your remarks remain respectful and focused on Township business. Each speaker is limited to a single 3-minute allotment. This forum is for public comment rather than a dialogue. Please address all remarks directly to the Deputy Mayor. We thank you in advance for your cooperation and for treating your neighbors, Township employees, and this committee with courtesy.
All right. Obviously, the meeting took a little longer, and we didn't want to rush any of the comment, but the mayor had a previous engagement to go read for our kids at Sunnymead School prior to this emergency meeting, so she needs to be there. So she regretted that she had to leave, but we didn't want to cut anybody's time short today because we felt it was important. So you're stuck with me for the open comment. So if anybody would like to make any open comment, please come to the mic and state your name and address for the record, and you'll allow 3 minutes. And it can be on anything other than was on tonight. See, did I scare everybody away? Really, I'm a nice guy. All right, last chance for anybody like any comments, general comments? All right. So then with that, then I would have a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion.
Gonna have to be you.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Committeeman Britting?
Yes.
Committeewoman Gomez?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lapani?
Yes.
Mayor Payne? Oh,
Abstain, not here. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll be back here next Tuesday.